The United Kingdom is facing a potentially historic election today. According to the polls, the right-leaning party, their 14-year reign could be coming to an end as the left-leaning Labour Party is set to win in a landslide there. Joining us now is British royal commentator and global business consultant Hilary Fordwich. Hilary, it's always great to have you, lady. As governments all over Europe are casting off their left-wing oppressors, why is the center-right party being voted out of power in the UK?
Well, Chris, pleasure to be back with you as well. Well, the phenomenon in the UK is very different than the rest of Europe. You're right. The Conservatives have been in power for 14 years. What they failed to do was they really failed to implement the agenda that they actually ran on. They failed to implement Brexit properly. They failed to control immigration to the extent that now it's called the small boats crisis in the UK. Just as we have an invasion basically at our southern border, there are these small boats that come over from France, and the Conservative government has failed to control that immigration issue. The National Health Service is crumbling, the infrastructure is crumbling. So the Conservatives, Tories, or more right-leaning, as you say, more analogous to Republicans in America, have failed to implement what they should have done completely. So this vote is not really, and every poll has shown this, there's not a great amount of faith necessarily in the opposition. Keir Starmer, who heads the Labour Party, that is more like a Democratic Party in the US. It's not that people necessarily want him. This is a protest vote, Chris. The protest vote is protesting against not only all the things I just mentioned, but also, don't forget, Rishi Sunak, the current Prime Minister, the head of the Conservative Party, was not elected by the British public. The British public elected Boris Johnson. There have been numerous changes, yes. Liz Truss, 4 to 9 days. So there's also a lot of distrust with the party that's played these inner games in terms of who they've replaced. And last but not least, what Sir Keir Starmer has done, the head of the Labour Party, more like the Democrats, is very similar to what Bill Clinton did in the United States. He's dragged the Labour Party from the way far Labour Union, leftist, Marxist, Jeremy Corbyn type Labour Party to the center, just like Bill Clinton did with the Democrats.
Wow. Okay. Well, folks, in case you're trying to just put names and faces, just think of an entire party of Mitch McConnell's or an entire party of Surrender Caucus, John Cornyn's. Yeah. That's what the center-right party over in the UK is. They don't live up to the principles, which, of course, we conservatives espouse. So, but again, Hilary, how is it that a country that struggled to get its freedom from the European Union, voting for Brexit, is now poised to take such a left-wing turn back into left-wing servitude? Is it because the Labour Party is moderated so much?
It's both things. It's because they've moderated so much, and as I mentioned, all those failures. And you just mentioned, basically you said Republicans in name only, the rhinos in America. Well, these, I guess you could call them sinos, conservative in name only. They have not implemented the conservative agenda. That's why there's national distrust, national frustration, and even Brexit, like as I mentioned, Brexit was never fully implemented because Brexit was supposed to control the UK borders, and there's been a massive failing. Last but not least, I would say, I predict, Nigel Farage, of course, has been heading the Reform Party. He will be taking a lot of those conservative votes because he has done an amazing job of building a groundswell of support, but it's not enough in this election. And interestingly, Rishi Sunak, the head of the Conservative Party, will be the first Prime Minister to actually lose his own seat. So he will no longer be in Parliament, whereas Nigel Farage will win Clacton. And Clacton, he'll be the MP for Clacton. He will be the voice of the opposition in Parliament, not the Conservatives any longer.
Wow, that's going to be huge, and we're pretty big fans of Nigel Farage. Last thing, and I've only got about 45 seconds here, Hilary. Former President Trump is the leading candidate here in the United States. He's very pro-American. The conservatives have found a home in his America First movement. If the UK does go left, give me a little bit of a forecast here. What impact will that have on the American-British special relationship?
Well, you know, it's sad, Chris, because we keep being out of sync. The last time America and the United Kingdom were in sync was Margaret Thatcher with Ronnie Reagan. You remember, she loved Ronald Reagan. There's pictures of them, down at Windsor Castle, and he was riding with the Queen, and they just got along gangbusters. In fact, she was the one that called when there was a strike going to be at National Airport. She said, "Don't go wobbly, Ronnie." She really was right by his side. So what does this mean now? What this means, we're going to be out of sync again, because it's looking like we know pretty much it's looking good that we may have President Trump here in the United States. So with a Labour government, there will not be that united special relationship yet again, which will be sad in terms of a
Yes.
UK-US trade agreement and many other aspects.
Sure, and Hillary, let's not forget what they did. It was Ronald Reagan, it was Margaret Thatcher, and Pope John Paul II, Saint Pope John Paul II, who teamed up to expand freedom. Freedom was on the march because of those very effective leaders. Now we've got a Marxist sitting in the papacy, and we've got the UK going left. It's just, man, we can never get. Hopefully one day the planets will align and we'll get freedom back on the march. Hillary Fordwich, always great to talk with you. Thank you very much for being here.